There will always be people who break the law, but not everyone gets away with it. Then there are the ones who not only outsmart the system and its enforcers, but they make them look silly whilst doing it. Take this man for example. First, let's dive into the case of Mark Denclau. On July 11, 2015, Robert Huggins, a former member of the GJOMC Portland branch, was found dead in a field in Clark County, Washington. His body had been brutally beaten, and it appeared he had been tortured before his death. Huggins had been kicked out of the club after being accused of stealing for tying up Denclau's fiancée and stealing guns during a break-in at Denclau's home in Woodburn. After this robbery, Denclau instructed club members to track Huggins down.
You're with a motorcycle club. You have some affiliation with one, is that right?
I don't have any answers for questions like that.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking is that a few months back, a gentleman named Jeff Sudan, you know him? He threw your name out in conjunction with kind of a repossession of a car, or a collection of a car. Does that sound familiar to you?
No. Jeff Sudan almost might. I'm not sure about that. It seems like Sudan rings a bell somewhere, but no collections of a car. No, I don't know.
Mark wasn't just going to let the authorities run the show. When questioned, he made it clear he'd only answer the questions he wanted to. He took control, opting to face the interrogation alone without a lawyer, ready to handle things his way. As the police dug into his past, Mark quickly decided they'd already had enough of his background.
Okay, so this last time, how long has she
So
been?
there's my background. That's it on Nicole. What else you want to know?
Okay.
Is Nicole the problem here? I mean, I know that she's had the cops over a few times.
Okay.
And she's had problems with the hospital and her.
Tell me about the hospital.
Well, if you don't know about it, then that's not what you're talking to me about. You'd already. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is that what this is about?
No.
Is it about the other night?
It does involve Nicole. So
Okay.
I don't know what the hospital thing is, so if that's not part of Nicole's issues, then
Okay.
so Nicole had let me back up a little bit. How long have you been in a relationship?
I'm not going to answer any more questions about Nicole.
Okay.
I don't have any more answers for you until I find out what you're talking about.
Okay, well,
you guys brought me in. I didn't bring you in. I want to hear what you got to talk about.
Well, I'm trying to get to that, but part of that's going to involve how long you've known Nicole.
Well, if you don't want to tell me what the heck I'm doing here, say so. Because I'm not going to sit here and give you a bunch of my background so you can play whatever kind of game you're playing. This is kind of stupid, man. I just got picked up and treated pretty roughly. You can still see the marks on my hands. This one was completely asleep all the way here and thrown in a complete silent room there. I want to know what the heck's going on, man.
Okay.
The officers tried to piece things together, asking how long he'd known Nicole, but Mark wasn't having it. He wasn't about to play their game. Like so many others in this situation, Mark didn't know exactly why he'd been brought in. Robert Huggins had broken into homes, threatened Nicole, and stolen weapons. But when the officers hinted at the connection, Mark kept quiet, pressing for answers instead of offering them. They pushed further, mentioning a car that might have been bought with his assets, possibly by Nicole. A few other guys had tried to return it, but Mark wasn't about to help them straighten out their story.
Nicole took off in a car that she may have had purchased with assets that belonged to you, or something like that. And then Jeff Sudan and a couple other guys kind of returned that car to you. Does that make sense to you? Is that
Or attempted to.
or attempted to?
Hell no.
Okay.
You guys are
So why would they throw?
Well, I'm not going to answer your questions, but without a lawyer anyway. But just because I don't like the reaction. But you guys are way off, man.
Okay.
You guys don't know. I don't know who's telling these stories, and I'm not sure who Jeff Sudan is. But I can tell you right now, nobody's ever returned a car to me from anybody ever in my life.
So if we got the story wrong, can you help us out with that?
Well, I'm not going to straighten your story out. No, I'm not. Not until I find out why I'm sitting here.
Okay.
I don't understand. This is about Nicole stealing a car and
No,
somebody.
not stealing necessarily.
But why are you playing games? Tell me what you're talking about.
Not trying to play games, but
Okay.
I'm trying to get it at the.
The cops then brought up an incident where someone had broken into his house, roughed up Nicole, and tied her up. But Mark stayed calm. There was no nervous shifting, no anxious gestures, just a straight face and a simple response.
Nicole was at your house, and somebody busted in the house and roughed her up a little bit, tied her up. You remember that?
I can't really answer to that. You're going to have to get that story from her.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to answer to that. But I can tell you once again, and you're going to find out that you are completely wrong.
At this point, it seemed like Mark was linked to Robert's death, but he didn't flinch when the break-in was mentioned. Instead, he played it cool, refusing to give away too much. When asked who he'd talked to about what happened, Mark shrugged it off.
Oh, God, tons of people, man.
Okay, give me some examples.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to sit here and name names for you, man. If you think I am, you're just barking up the wrong tree.
Okay.
You really are. But I'll tell you what, I don't really understand why this stuff that you're talking about with this dude and the car stuff, why would that get handcuffs put on me?
Well,
Why would those handcuffs go on me? What did I do that was illegal in any of that stuff? What did I even have to do with it? I wasn't even there for any of it. None of it. Okay. Not anything that you've talked about so far. I was a long way away from it. So why would I get handcuffs put around my fucking wrist for it?
Throughout the interrogation, Mark chose not to ask for a lawyer, trying to appear cooperative while keeping tight-lipped. He was caught between two options: talk more to seem innocent, but risk giving away too much, or stay silent, knowing that both approaches had their own risks.
Okay, so now what?
well,
I'm not. Am I arrested for anything?
you're being detained at this point.
Okay, but I'm not under arrest quite yet.
That's correct.
Okay, then I don't need a lawyer quite yet. Do you suspect me of something?
Well, help us get this unconfused.
Because if
Will
you
do
suspect
that?
me of doing a crime, let me know so I can get a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Don't.
Well, I don't think we've accused you of committing
No,
a
you
crime,
haven't,
have we?
and that's why
Okay.
I'm still looking at these marks on my wrists and going, man, what a way to treat somebody who's not suspected of doing a crime.
Okay.
You know?
The conversation shifted, and the police asked if he knew anything about someone named Badger. Mark didn't give them much to work with.
Okay. So, can you clarify anything for us about Bagger Bob?
Let me think if I even want to. You know, any stories that I tell at all about that guy, they dip into club business. It's club stuff. And I'm not going to go club stuff with you guys for nothing. That's just, it's against my fucking rules and it ain't going to happen.
Okay.
But soon enough, he broke his silence. Mark started to share bits and pieces about Robert and the club, his resistance slipping away. He mentioned how Robert had stolen from the club and, when caught, blamed it on heroin, which led to his automatic expulsion. Despite his initial reluctance, Mark ended up talking for about 20 minutes. After a brief break, the police returned and asked him again about his thoughts on getting a lawyer.
So a few times you've, mentioned maybe a lawyer, maybe not. Before we go, we'd like to talk to you further, but we just want to make sure. I mean, it's your choice. If you want a lawyer, that's fine. We'll stop communicating here. If you don't want a lawyer, we can keep talking.
Mark paused, realizing the gravity of the situation.
And obviously has the right to explain to
Then
you.
I must be going to get arrested or you wouldn't have me call a lawyer in here. Then definitely I want a lawyer. If I'm going to get arrested, I want a lawyer, yeah.
In the end, Mark Denclaw and Chad Erickson were both found guilty of kidnapping and torturing Robert Huggins to death. Mark's confidence had been his downfall. He and Erickson, both club members, were charged with terrifying crimes. Crimes they thought they could get away with. But their lies unraveled, and the law won. Mark was sentenced to life in prison, which is certainly a harsh reminder that no one can outsmart the law forever. It all began on what seemed like a regular evening in 2011. Alarms blared at a local 7-Eleven, signaling something far from ordinary. Reports of an armed robbery flooded the police department, setting off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. When officers arrived at the scene, the suspect had already vanished. The search expanded, leading the police to a nearby house where they heard a commotion. With no other leads, they stormed in. Inside, they found a known heroin addict sitting with a gun. Despite having no concrete evidence, the police arrested the man and brought him in for questioning. That man was Jeff Pearson, the very person who had committed the robbery. What followed would go down in history as one of the rare times when a suspect managed to outsmart the cops, all while enduring the painful throes of heroin withdrawal. The footage begins with Jeff, dressed in prison scrubs, sitting in a small, windowless room. It's clear he's already been processed and spent some time in a cell, likely while the cops gathered evidence and prepared to question him.
Am I under arrest?
For now.
I'm under arrest?
Yeah, I'll explain everything, but before I explain myself to you, before we talk to each other, I need to read your rights, okay?
What am I under arrest for?
Well, like I said, I need to read your rights first. Obviously, the charge is robbery, okay?
Right from the start, it was clear Jeff knew what he was doing. He opened with the exact questions anyone in his position should ask. If you're not being arrested or detained, you can assert that you're not obligated to stay and can leave. If you are being arrested, you can immediately request a lawyer and remain silent until one is present. These are the best ways to protect yourself during an interrogation. As the detective read Jeff his Miranda rights, Jeff's silence spoke volumes. He knew the game, and he wasn't about to play by their rules. The detective, trying to seem unfazed, leaned back in his chair, but his body language hinted at frustration.
You probably heard these before, haven't you? Does that make sense? Did you understand your rights? Did you understand your rights, Jeff? Yes or no? Do you understand?
We're getting paid more than you are, so we can sit here for a long time, man.
I just need you to answer me yes or no. Do you understand your rights? Let's get through that question. Do you understand what I read you? Did you comprehend what I read you? Jeff, I'm just here to talk to you and figure out what happened and move you on out of here, at least some of it. So do you understand the rights I read to you?
They knew this wasn't going to be easy.
If you got something that says you didn't do this robbery, this is your chance to talk to us.
Okay, good cop.
No, usually I'm the prick.
You look like the prick.
I am.
Jeff, do you understand your rights? Yes or no? I'm not asking if you want to talk to me at this point. I just want to know, do you understand what I read to you?
So am I under arrest?
Yes, you're under arrest.
Get me back to the cell. I don't talk to you motherfuckers.
Okay, fair enough.
In his first round of interrogation, Jeff played his cards perfectly. He knew the police didn't have enough to hold him, so he stayed silent. After a while, they sent him back to his cell, but 2 hours later, he was brought back for round 2. You wanted a Coke? An officer asked, handing Jeff the drink he'd requested. Jeff cracked open the can, but wasted no time mentioning what was really on his mind.
You wanted a Coke?
Yeah.
You gonna be able to pop it open, or you need me to?
I need methadone.
You need methadone?
Yeah, you guys can get me that methadone?
I don't have any. Do you have a medication for it, or a prescription for it? Or?
No.
What do you need methadone for?
Because I'm a fucking junkie, and you guys, I can't get no methadone. I'm gonna go through withdrawal here in a minute.
Methadone, the drug Jeff asked for, is commonly used to ease the brutal symptoms of heroin withdrawal, reducing both the physical effects and the intense cravings. Jeff knew what he needed, and he wasn't shy about it.
How long you been using heroin?
Long time, buddy.
10 years? 15 years?
I hardly been alive that long. What are you trying to talk to me about here?
Talk to you about what happened last night. Look, here's the deal. Either you're in a bad set of circumstances, or you went and committed an armed robbery last night.
Jeff was done playing nice.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'm in a shitty, wrong place at wrong time, obviously. I didn't commit no fucking armed robbery.
All right, then let's talk about this. Let's
I
not
don't have
keep
nothing.
up
I
the
don't talk
act.
to the police, man.
I think it's in your best interest to. man.
How? I don't
You're-
talk to
you're
the
sitting
police.
here-
Jeff had clearly had enough of the personal chit-chat. He wanted to get back out to the real issue. He believed he was being wrongly accused, and he wanted out.
Okay.
I've been through the system, buddy. I know how
I know
it
you
works.
have. I know you have.
You're
Jeff.
not my friend.
I'm not your friend.
You're trying to fucking get me. Or you're
No, I'm
trying
not trying to get
all
you.
you're trying to get is some fucking stupid ass fucking confession, and you're not gonna get one.
Jeff, I'm not going to get a
'Cause-
confession out of you for nothing.
Exactly, because I
And
didn't
I'm
do
not
nothing.
trying to get a confession out of you.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, I didn't commit no armed robbery, and y'all ain't got no fucking evidence saying I did. Let me go. All you did is find me sitting in my buddy's house
He laid it all out.
because my fucking buddy's dog's going ape shit. I go outside, there are cops everywhere, and they spotlight me. They say, "Come here." I say, "What's up?" They search me. They ain't
Hang
find
on.
nothing. What's
Let
up?
me read this.
No,
Yes.
because I'm not gonna sign it.
The irony was almost laughable. The cop claimed he wasn't trying to pin anything on Jeff, all while Jeff sat handcuffed in an interrogation room. Jeff's words were sharp and calculated, like he'd rehearsed them. It was impressive, especially considering he was probably beginning to experience withdrawals. His points were spot on, particularly when he called out the cops for just trying to force a confession. This whole interrogation had the stink of the Reed technique, a tactic designed to get confessions, true or not. Developed in the 1960s by former cop and psychologist, the technique starts with a friendly chat and slowly escalates. By the end, the suspect is offered two alternatives: both of which admit guilty. It's manipulative and it works, often leading to false confessions. The original case where this technique was used, it later fell apart when it was revealed that a man that didn't actually kill his wife. Talk about next-level gaslighting. The detective switched tactics.
Tell me what happened last night. Plain and simple. Your side of the story.
I'm not talking to you. I'm warning you.
The cop didn't understand. Jeff had been talking earlier, but now, silence. You were just talking to me, then I read that to you, and suddenly you're asking for a lawyer? I don't get it, the cop pressed.
This is
I
what I
told
don't
you this
understand.
one. I told you
I know,
this
but
one,
this
yeah.
is what I don't understand, Jeff. You were sitting there talking just like you were ready to sit here and tell me what happened last night, and then all of a sudden I read that to you and you screw it, I ain't talking to you. I want a lawyer.
Jeff had already explained his side, but the cop wasn't having it.
But I will tell you right now, you're still on a hold for a robbery.
I know. I don't know why I need a fucking lawyer because obviously I didn't do nothing. And obviously you guys know I didn't do nothing because I've been arrested for the same bullshit before and you guys don't interview me this much. So, wham bam, thank you for the coke, put me back in the cell.
We
That's
haven't
my home.
interviewed you yet.
That's my home.
All right.
By now, Jeff had asked for a lawyer and refused to answer any more questions. But the footage showed we were only halfway through. Jeff's defense was still rock solid, and he was about to take things to another level. The detective would make a bluff and Jeff would see right through it.
Okay, well, give me your side of the story. You got, convince me. Because I got a lot of evidence. I got a lot of physical evidence.
Well, like what? Name the
Well, I don't need to, why should I tell you that? I mean, you haven't been helpful to me at all. You haven't helped me out at all. Why should I help you out?
The detective was getting desperate, throwing out empty threats of evidence and trying to scare Jeff into talking. But Jeff wasn't buying it. The cop tried to bargain, promising a good word with Jeff's parole officer if he helped him out. But Jeff saw the truth. What good is a gold star when you're stuck in prison for 20 years? It was clear the cops had nothing on Jeff, and they knew it. Despite Jeff asking for a lawyer multiple times, they continued their questioning, a clear violation of his rights. But Jeff was sharp, watching the clock and biding his time. For the next 4 minutes, he stonewalled every attempt to break him down. The detective even tried to rattle him with talk of a gun found on him and what life in prison would be like without the drugs Jeff had grown dependent on. Jeff didn't flinch though. He knew he was winning.
I'm done, man. Fuck this. I'm not even answering. All this shit that I just said is gonna be fucking written in the discovery now, right?
What? You haven't said nothing.
I mean, every little stupid thing that you've asked me, dude, is gonna be in the discovery.
I'm not even going to do discovery.
The cops seemed confused. Jeff knew the system, even if only halfway. The only reason he'd even come up to talk was to get a Coke, and now he wanted a Butterfinger, but that wasn't happening. Not yet.
I need to go to the hospital. I'm coughing up blood. Let's go to the hospital.
For hours, the cops had badgered a man who was clearly in pain, denying him access to medication and trying to squeeze a confession out of him. Jeff, cool as a cucumber, had asked for sodas and candy bars, knowing any slip of the tongue could doom him. He knew his rights, and he played his cards perfectly. And just 12 hours later, Jeff walked out of custody, free to go. On August 2nd, 2005, a call came through to 911. The caller was frantic, describing a serious... Paramedics rushed to the scene, where they found the victim alive but gravely injured. Without delay, they transported him to the hospital. Meanwhile, deputies took the driver of the vehicle involved to the sheriff's office for questioning. The victim was Michael Martinez, 30 years old, a man who grew up in the same neighborhood where the tragic accident happened. Michael was a construction worker, loved by his family and known for his sense of humor, especially around the holidays. He wasn't without his flaws and had run into trouble with the law from time to time. But despite his mistakes, his family stood by him, determined to fight for justice. The driver, Nathan Robbins, was a 39-year-old neighbor and friend of Michael's. Robbins had an extensive rap sheet, crimes ranging from burglary to theft and even some traffic violations. It seemed trouble had always followed Nathan throughout his life. Before the interview with Robbins could begin, word came in from the hospital. Despite their best efforts, the doctor couldn't save Michael's life. The case had now escalated to a homicide investigation. Detective Porter, who was leading the interview, made a strategic decision not to tell Nathan that Michael had died, hoping it might help extract a confession. Nathan tried to appear upset, but his performance was unconvincing. His voice was high-pitched, almost whiny, and the act felt overdone. The detective learned that the two had gotten into a fight the night before. It wasn't hard to connect the dots, an argument one day, and the next, one of them was dead. He mentioned he was a homicide detective. The word homicide hung in the air, and it hit Nathan hard. He pieced it together. Michael wasn't just hurt, he was dead. Even without a full confession, there was enough evidence to charge Nathan Robbins with vehicular manslaughter. But should the detective have lied to him about his best friend's death? You let us know down in the comments.